I would often go walking outside during the times it would snow. It would be the night times when I did this, as there would be way too many cars by the morning, and even up until midday this would be the case. I never had the opportunity to just walk outside and enjoy the nice environment out in the snow. So my only choice would be to do this when it got quite dark and late enough for when there would be barely any cars on the streets. Since I was living alone, I didn't really care what time I'd be walking out there, so my problem mostly came from the amount of people being outside, which I didn't really want happening. I put on my jacket and left my home now, taking my phone and my headphones with me. I would just listen to some rain sound effects while walking outside, as it gave me that sense of peace and making me feel quite tired. Not sure how that works, but even when being out there in the cold winter night, my mind felt very relaxed and I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. I continued walking around the sidewalk. The snow was everywhere, and it was a good sight to see while listening to this audio. Some cars driving by, and even people walking right past me, but I never felt any concern within me. I mean, why would I? Even though I did hear a lot of stuff happening to those who aren't paying attention when outside, I never thought that would be the case for me, always thinking my neighborhood was safe. I checked my phone and 30 minutes had gone by. I decided I would continue walking around for maybe 15 more minutes. I had work the next day, but I didn't really care. I just wanted to stay outside a little more longer, and I wasn't sure how long the snow would last over the upcoming days. Anyway, my phone started ringing and I took off my headphones. It was my friend, and I was talking with him like usual and did so for quite a while, though after a few minutes later, I could hear a car driving behind me very slowly. Since my headphones were off now, it was a lot more easier to hear what was around me. I wouldn't even know how long this car was driving beside me too. I looked back and the car was still there, though it was way too dark to see them, and I didn't want to seem suspicious by looking towards them for too long. So I just continued walking ahead and slowly started walking faster. I made sure to take some random turns just so I could get away from this guy potentially following me, but of course, he was still there for some reason. A few minutes had gone by and the same thing was still happening, though at one point the guy came very close to me and rolled down his window. I looked at him and he was smiling, then he questioned me, saying if he knew me from somewhere. I had no idea who this guy was and didn't want to talk with him anyway. I responded by saying he might have gotten the wrong guy, but he insisted and said my face looked pretty familiar with someone he knows. I felt very uncomfortable and I could barely even run in the snow, let alone walking too fast, so my movement was very limited from the start. I let the guy know it wasn't me for whoever he was looking for, and he continued driving beside me. I couldn't let this go on any more longer, so I made a sudden turn that would lead me onto a smaller street. This street was filled with cars being parked there, and the guy would have to drive very slowly to get through. So I did this and tried speed walking too. I managed to make it back to my street within like 10 minutes worth of shortcuts, getting back to my place and closing my door immediately. I was very scared the guy knew where I lived, and I even took some days off of work, just because I was too paranoid going outside. I never told anyone about this experience, and I prefer to keep it that way. It's why I would recommend to always pay attention when being outside. You can never trust anyone, especially during the nighttime hours, or even when it gets very dark in general. This was quite a scary experience I'd faced a couple years back. I always snuck outside my home during the nighttime, and this one specific day, there was a lot of snow that had come by. My friends would ask me to go to the park right by my place, so of course, I accepted their request and let them know I would be there within like 5 minutes. I was actually pretty excited going there this time, a lot more than usual, since I figured we would do some snowball fights in the park when no one was around, and most importantly, no one complaining about us doing this. My room is literally downstairs with my window facing the front of my house, so all I needed to do was open my windows and I could easily go through just like that. My parents were sleeping upstairs anyway, but I still didn't want to risk waking them up, so I made sure to get out of there fast. I finally made it outside and made my way over to the park. I was picking up some snow along the way and even thought of surprise attacking my friends by collecting a lot of it before even making it there. I texted my friends once again and let them know I'd be there soon. They didn't say anything though, but this wasn't an issue. Maybe they were walking and didn't have their phone in hand or something. Like I mentioned before, it wouldn't take too long getting to the park, and I had made it there now, though I couldn't see my friends anywhere. I was assuming they would be here before me. They were a lot more eager to do this and contacted me first about it, so I texted them again and hoped they would be here soon. 5 minutes had gone by and still no response, and no one at the park as well. I was getting stressed out and was thinking they wouldn't make it here anymore and called it off. I let them know I'd go back home and felt very frustrated. These guys told me they would want to do this in the first place, and now they ditched me in the middle of the night with no one around. I was looking around once again and saw a group of guys wearing ski masks. Of course, since it was really cold, I didn't really think too much of it, but made sure to walk away in the direction back home. When I did this, I had that sense of urgency to just try getting back home even faster. The fact that those guys wearing the ski masks were potentially behind me gave my mind some uneasy feeling. I think I must have been right to assume this, as I heard a lot of shouting from behind me, even hearing stuff being thrown from behind. I turned around, and those guys were doing some weird hand signs and calling me over at the same time. I was terrified when seeing this. 5 guys just wearing ski masks, and during the nighttime. There was no way I would go towards them, and I don't think any normal person would do that too. I continued walking ahead and just ran a few seconds later. It was hard doing this, as the floor was very slippery, but I managed to maintain my grip, at least enough for me to get back home without getting caught up in any situation. I went back through my window and closed it fast, trying to grab my phone in the process. However, I couldn't find it whatsoever. It would always be inside my pockets, but it wasn't there anymore. I was looking around my room and nothing. At that moment, I realized I might have dropped my phone while running, which was the worst case to happen, as those guys were right behind me. They definitely would have been able to take it. When it was more busy and my parents were awake, I decided to run outside again back to the same place I was at, but no phone on the sidewalk. It was surely stolen, and I made such a bad mistake by dropping it. I had an old spare phone that I could still use to text my friends, but I was still angry about losing my other phone. Long story short, I never got my phone back obviously. One of my friends let me know that they got caught by their parents trying to sneak out that night, but apparently forgot to tell me not to go to the park. This would have all been avoided if I didn't go there at night. It was a bad idea from the start, but I guess it already happened now. I learned my lesson that it is never good to sneak outside, and especially when it is nighttime. You can never be too safe with those kind of people out there, and make sure to always keep your valuable items safe when outside. I was just driving around in my car when it was snowing. I was meant to be meeting up with my cousins that day, but my boss made me work overtime that day with such short notice. I obviously felt very annoyed as the nighttime would come by and it was snowing. I was supposed to be there right before the sunset times, but I was still grateful I had a lot of time left of the day. The journey would take like an hour getting there. I would have been there like an hour or two ago as well if I didn't have to work those extra hours, so that made it a lot more worse at that moment. I didn't really enjoy driving at the nighttime hours, especially in the winter snow seasons. However, I just had to accept it and keep driving to get to my cousin's place. It must have been like 30 minutes later. I was listening to the radio in my car, and during the ride, I could see someone's car in the distance, just parked on the side of the road. I was curious, and when I got closer, the condition of his car looked very bad, like a lot of dents and even some cracks on the windshield from the back. I decided I would stop by and see if the person needs help. I remember this sort of stuff happening to me one time, so I figured I could help this random person too if they needed it. I parked up my car right up on the side in front of their one, leaving my car running while I got out. I started walking up to the driver's side window of that person's car, and I could see a man looking ahead. He was just staring without even saying anything, so I knocked on the window and he slowly rolled it down, but didn't even look at me once. I could kind of see in his eyes from the light reflection, and it was completely red. He was barely blinking, and I tried questioning him if he was okay, even feeling quite scared doing so. He didn't even say a word to me at this point, so I repeated myself once again. However, he responded so suddenly and in such angry tone against me, it made me jump so fast that I nearly fell backwards. He was trying to grab something from his glove compartment, but struggled to find whatever he was looking for, and this really scared me. He looked very unstable and irritated. Even that is an understatement of his condition. I just went back to my car and drove away immediately. I was thinking what was wrong with that guy, and if he was going to grab something to attack me maybe, potentially even a gun if he had one in there. I couldn't take that risk, and had seen way too many videos of these random situations turning deadly. I got to my cousin's place safely that night, and I mentioned this to them as well. They were thinking the same too, probably some guy drinking or just mentally unstable. Whatever the reason it is, I was still glad I drove away before any more further interaction and possible escalation of the situation. I just hope that person gets the help he needs, and if it is drinking or substance problems, then he definitely needs to receive some sort of serious help from other people. I would say to always remain calm and be careful around those who might be in that type of state. You never know when they might go crazy and do something very dangerous, especially if it is random strangers. They could be carrying weapons that you might not see at first.